Before we dive into the breaking news regarding a former Seattle icon and the massive implications for the league, please hit that like button to help support our independent insider coverage. I want to know exactly where the 12s are tuning in from today, so drop your name and your city in the comment section below. Let's see which location has the strongest Seahawks representation right now. I have been tracking a rapidly developing situation out of the league office that has sent shockwaves through the NFL and certainly resonates deeply within the Pacific Northwest. The National Football League has officially suspended former Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf for 2 games without pay, following a confirmed physical confrontation with a fan during the Steelers' recent matchup against the Detroit Lions. While Metcalf is no longer wearing the college navy and action green, my sources in Seattle indicate that this news is being viewed internally not just as a headline from another team, but as a significant validation of the franchise's strategic pivot over the last year. The details I have obtained from the league's press release are explicit. Metcalf's suspension stems from conduct detrimental to the league after he was seen grasping a fan and swinging, though missing, following an interaction in the stands. This is the nightmare scenario for any franchise, and it highlights exactly why the Seahawks felt comfortable handing the keys to the offense to a younger, more disciplined core. From what I am told regarding the incident itself, there are conflicting reports about what precipitated the altercation. Reporting suggests a racial remark may have been directed at Metcalf, which would undoubtedly add a layer of complexity and mitigation to his actions. However, ESPN has reported that the fan in question, speaking through legal representation, has vehemently denied making any such comments. Regardless of the verbal exchange, the NFL's policy is ironclad. Players simply cannot enter the stands or initiate physical contact with spectators. The league's statement on December 22 made it clear that such actions create crowd control issues and significant injury risks that the NFL is unwilling to tolerate. For Seattle fans, this feels like a surreal chapter in the ongoing DK watch, a phenomenon that evidently did not end when he was traded to Pittsburgh. It forces us to look at the current state of the Seattle Seahawks, who are currently sitting in the driver's seat as the #1 seed in the NFC, and acknowledge that the decision to move on from Metcalf was as much about culture as it was about the salary cap. The timing of this suspension is critical. Metcalf is eligible to return on Monday, January 5th, meaning he will miss Week 17 against the Cleveland Browns and Week 18 against the Baltimore Ravens. My sources close to the situation in Pittsburgh tell me this is a devastating blow to a Steelers team that is in the midst of a heated playoff battle. Without Aaron Rodgers' top target, the pressure on the 42-year-old quarterback becomes immense. But when you look at this through the lens of the Seattle's front office, the contrast is stark. While Pittsburgh scrambles to replace production and manage a national media firestorm, Seattle is preparing for a postseason run with zero internal drama. The prioritization of Jackson Smith-Jigba has proven to be a masterstroke. I've spoken with scouts and executives who believe JSN's reliability and lack of extracurricular headlines have been the stabilizing force this offense needed to take the next step. The Seattles are currently living large, controlling the conference, while their former star is embroiled in a controversy that removes him from the field during the most critical weeks of the season. I've been told that Metcalf has the option to appeal this ruling under the collective bargaining agreement. If he chooses to do so, the hearing would be expedited and heard by the commissioner or a designee. However, historically, suspensions involving physical altercations with fans are rarely overturned completely. The league is incredibly protective of the barrier between player and spectator. If the suspension holds, it serves as a reminder of the volatility that Seattle managed for years. While Metcalf provided some of the most electrifying moments in franchise history, the weekly debates about his targets, his sideline demeanor, and his emotional regulation were a constant tax on the coaching staff. Now, looking at the seamless operation under the current regime, it is clear that removing that volatility was a calculated risk that has paid off. The Seattles didn't just trade a player, they traded away the potential for exactly this kind of distraction occurring in late December. Furthermore, this incident changes the narrative around the trade compensation. When Seattle moved Metcalf, the discussion was heavily focused on whether the offense could maintain its explosiveness. The data now shows that not only has the offense maintained its output, but it has arguably become more efficient. Jackson Smith-Jigba has absorbed the volume with a professional consistency that aligns perfectly with the team's current identity. Meanwhile, the DK watch has simply relocated to the AFC North. I'm hearing from contacts in Pittsburgh that the organization is scrambling to adjust their game plan, a chaos that Seattle is happily avoiding. The trade looks better with every passing week, not because of ill will toward Metcalf, but because of the stability it brought to the Seattle's locker room. When you are chasing a Super Bowl ring, you cannot afford to have your WR1 suspended for fighting fans in the stands 2 weeks before the playoffs. The financial implications are also worth noting. A 2-game suspension without pay is a significant financial hit for Metcalf, but the reputational damage is the longer-term concern. For the Seattles, who avoided having to pay Metcalf his next mega contract, this reinforces the prudence of their financial planning. They allocated those resources to a defense that has them atop the NFC and to extending core pieces that fit the culture Mike McDonald has instilled.
It is a harsh reality of the business, but availability is the best ability, and right now, Metcalf is unavailable due to a lapse in judgment that the Seattles no longer have to answer for. The media scrum in Pittsburgh this week will be intense, asking questions about discipline, fan safety, and racial allegations. In Seattle, the questions will be about home field advantage and resting starters. The difference in those two realities cannot be overstated. As we look ahead to the appeal process, I will keep you updated on any changes to his status. But for Seattle fans, this news serves as a moment of reflection. The team is winning. The locker room is cohesive, and the headlines coming out of Seattle are about football, not fights. The transition from the Metcalf era to the Smith-Digba era appears to be fully vindicated. It is rare that a trade winner is declared so definitively, but the combination of Seattle's standings and Metcalf's unavailability paints a very clear picture. The Seattles made the hard choice, the unpopular choice at the time for some, and it has resulted in them controlling their own destiny while their former star watches from home. I want to hear from you on this. Do you think this suspension proves definitively that Seattle made the right move trading DK Metcalf when they did, or do you still miss his explosive playmaking ability regardless of the off-field drama? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.